Hello, and thank you for stopping by the 741 channel today. Today's project is to replace this Alpine stereo unit with the factory stereo unit that belongs in this 2001 Dodge Dakota. And the reason that I'm pulling out this arguably better radio and putting in the old factory radio is that I'm going to be selling this truck and I want to keep this Alpine radio. So the next thing that I've done is started to prepare to remove this plastic bezel that's around the radio and the heater controls, and it extends over here around the instrument cluster. So what I've done is I've removed two screws that are here right above the tach and the speedometer, and they're right here. You can see they're hex head, but they also have a Phillips in them. So the next thing that I think just needs to happen, it's been a while since I've taken this apart. I think this just pulls straight out. It's got those sort of friction clips in there. So we'll just pop this out carefully. So I'll just work on pulling this out. I'm probably going to have to put the camera down. I probably need my other hand, but you can see this extends clear over here to this side of the truck. So I'll also pull the fuse cover off there. You can see this bezel extends all the way over here. And I think I'm going to need both hands to do this without breaking it. So let me set the camera down and finish yanking this thing out. As you can see here, I've got the bezel pulled away from the dashboard, but I can't quite get it all the way out, and I seem to remember this being a problem from years ago. This part of it won't fit between the edge of the dashboard and the steering wheel. I suppose if your truck had a tilt steering wheel, this may be an easy thing, but this one doesn't have tilt wheel, so I can't move the steering wheel out of the way. I think the only way to do it on a truck like mine is to remove this bezel that's around the steering wheel, and then there's enough clearance to kind of move things around and get it shimmied out. But for now, I'm going to just try and work with it the way that it is. You can see I can get at the screws holding the radio in, so that should be good enough. I should be able to pull the radio straight out through there if I need to, or up through here. Shouldn't be a problem. So the next thing that I'll do is remove the screws that hold the radio in. I believe there's 4. I'm not sure if they all 4 need to come out to remove this aftermarket radio, but there's at least 2 that do. 1 here and 1 here. Now that I have the screws out, I should be able to just start working on pulling this straight out of here. And it's a little tricky with the bezel still in my way and trying to do this with one hand, but you can see that the radio came free. You can see here I've got the radio out of its home now, and I was wrong. This doesn't have a cage that goes around it. It's just got a couple of ears on it that screw to the side of the radio, one on each side, just like this. Now the wiring harness back here, I should be able to just unplug it. The radio antenna has already come unplugged. This was really short, it looks like, and there wasn't much slack on it, so as soon as I started jimmying this out, it came out of the back of the radio. But these had some slack in them, and these are just factory connectors. I didn't cut the connectors when I installed this. I bought some pigtails that mount up to the factory wiring, so I should be able to just unclip these and separate them, and then that should be it. There's a gray one and a black one. Let's see if I can get this one with one hand. This one's being a little trickier. Oh, there it goes. But there was one more wire here that needs to come out. You can kind of see, I don't know what this is. It looks like I've got it rigged a little bit with a spade lug. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get this with one hand. So here's what the factory wiring looks like. I didn't cut or splice anything when I put the radio in, like I said before. So here's the 2 main connectors. And then there was that little black one. That must be, like I said, some sort of power sense wire. Maybe that's a ground wire. I'm not sure. And then there was this other purple wire with this white connector with the red on it that wasn't connected to anything. That was just down in there. And of course the Motorola plug for the antenna, which for whatever reason is a little bit short. There, now it's a little bit longer. It was wrapped around something in there. So I'll pull that out and get some slack on it. So what I'll do now is go find the factory radio, and we'll kind of reverse the process here. Just for posterity's sake, here's a look at the Alpine radio that I pulled out. You can kind of see the the ears I mentioned before that are just screwed on to the side there. And I'm scratching up all my non-existent paint here, but you can see on the bottom of this thing it was manufactured in April of 1999. So since it is now April of 2017, that makes this thing 18 years old. So it's a little older than I thought, but still in good working condition. So I'm going to keep it hanging around and maybe use it in the garage or something, I don't know. And here's a look at the pigtails I had on it. You can see everything was spliced in and soldered in with shrink tubing and that sort of a thing. And when I install radios in vehicles, which hasn't been for quite a while, I like to do it this way and solder on a factory connector so I don't mess up the vehicle. Here's a look at the factory radio, which has been in storage for many, many years. So hopefully it still works. You can see there's a CD player there and just AM and FM, pretty basic radio. But from what I remember, it worked pretty good. So this radio is actually newer than the one I took out, since this truck is a 2001 Dodge Dakota, and the radio I took out was a 99. So this is maybe an upgrade, I don't know. Before I throw the factory radio back in, I wanted to check this black wire out because I didn't see a connector for it on the back of the radio. So I suspected that it was a ground wire. I've got one end of my multimeter plugged into the wire there, as you can see, and I'm going to use my other end of my wire. I'm going to ground it, and you can see the side of the key ignition lock here is ground, and you can see there I've got a dead short. So that is indeed a ground wire, and will plug into a tab on the chassis of the radio, which I will show momentarily. So I've got the radio ready to go here, and hopefully you can see in the camera, it looks like the colors are a bit washed out, but there's a black connector and a gray connector here, and those will correspond to the two wires with the black connector and gray connector on it that are in the dashboard. Over here is where the antenna will plug into, and then right here looks like that white and red connector will plug in here. Now that ground connector I was just talking about will slip over one of these tabs, or at least I believe it will. So let me go ahead and get everything connected up and then show you guys what it looks like. I've got everything connected up just like I said, black to black, gray to gray, the red and white connector in this slot, the antenna connector here, and it's difficult to show because of the way everything is, but you should be able to see that black wire clipped over this tab. There's two tabs here, I could have used either one. There's a little hole in it, and when I clipped it over, it kind of locked into that hole, so that's definitely the place for it. Now what I should have done before I connected the radio is remove these two screws here, because it looks like the radio uses all four. There's some plastic ears here that you can see, and then on the back of these plastic ears are some spikes, if I can show them. So these spikes that are here on the back of the plastic boss align things and go through these two holes here. There's one on either side. As you can see here, the factory radio is remounted in place, all screwed in with the four screws. So now all I need to do is put the dash bezel back in, and I think I'm going to use both hands for that. I'll need to kind of jimmy it in and align everything. I've got this lined up. This should be just a matter of popping it back into place with a little bit of force here. I've got the dash all pushed back into place here. Now I just need to reinstall the two screws that are up here above the instrument cluster, and then everything should be back together and we can give this a try. So I've got everything all installed. I've got the key on, and let's see if the radio works. You can see the clock is on, and that seems to be working. So I believe this just comes out, and I'm hearing some noise here, so that's a good sign. So let me tune up to a station.
At all, and people don't even have options. That doesn't work. Like I said earlier.
So it's working on AM, getting an AM station. That's a good sign. So let's switch it over to FM. And it looks like it's working on FM too, so that's a good sign there. So let me check all these things out. The bass and treble seem to work okay. Let's do the fader. Left and right seem to work, and the fader fronts only and rears only, That seems to work. Everything seems to work. I don't have a disc to put in here right now, but I don't have any reason to believe it wouldn't work. Now, for the heck of it, I'm going to try a CD that I found in my wife's car, just to see if the CD plays. I don't even know what this CD is. And it seems like it's working, so that's a good thing. Let's see. Yep, seems to skip around. Doesn't sound too bad. Well, I guess that's it. It looks like the swap was successful, and the old radio here is still working just fine, even though it's been in storage for probably 12 or 13 years now. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to leave a comment or subscribe, feel free to do that as well. Thanks for watching.